T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Global Watchman News. My name is Lori Swan. I hope you guys are all doing well. If you're in the live chat, we do ask you to keep it family friendly. There will be moderators in there to make sure that we stay within the terms of service put forth to us by the platforms we're utilizing tonight. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Take a minute to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, so you know when we go live. So it's Wednesday night. You know what that means. We got Big John with us. We got Hero. We got Trish. And Ernie will be joining us in just a little bit. Big John, what's up?
It's your old pal back again one more time.
God, I love that. Yes, you are. How you been?
I've been well.
Good.
Same old stuff on my end.
Nice. Well, okay. Status quo. We like that. You know, whether it's good or bad, at least it's not like fluctuating and going all over the place.
No, it's a repetitive, almost a pattern.
I know what that's like. Hero, welcome back.
Hello. How's everyone doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
You've been busy.
I guess.
Over there on TikTok. And John John uploaded a video today also as well. We may, toward the end of the show, get into that a little bit. because there was some news that came out the past couple of days. I sent it to John. He made a video about it. Trish, welcome.
Hi, thanks. Oh boy, I have some catching up to do with the anti-hero and Big John.
Yeah.
I haven't seen their videos. I'm behind.
I'll have to start. My husband's home. He's going to be going back out on the road pretty soon, so I'll be able to catch up and get back into our chat. I've been playing hooky from our chat, and I apologize for that. So.
Oh no, that's all right.
Yeah. So tonight's topic is we're going to talk about Mount Hermon, and it's funny because when he mentioned about Mount Hermon and ROSWELL connection and the UN, I kind of like every once in a while I get into the assumption that people already know this stuff. Just because I know it doesn't mean other people know it. You know what I mean? I mean, this is a topic that it's been around for a while, but nobody talks about it anymore. Let me get to a video. And we're going to start off with the video. I don't know how much of this video we're going to play, but I do want to kind of, because this video puts it in perspective about the connection. So like I said, I'm not sure how much we're going to play. We're going to play a little bit of it. So let's start it off.
Hello again, Gary Stearman with another edition of Prophecy in the News. Today's guest, Rob Skiba. We're going to talk about his video. It's called The Mount Hermon Roswell Connection. Stay with us. Well, Rob Skiba, welcome once again to Prophecy in the News.
Thank you, Gary.
Today, we're going to focus on a fascinating subject, which you will find fully expounded in this DVD, The Mount Hermon Roswell Connection. Wow, what a title and what a subject. We're going to start right out with some scripture, which I'm sure you've read many times, but we're going to put a little bit different tilt on it today. Rob, Book of Matthew, an incident in the life of Jesus and the disciples.
Yeah. What got me started on all of that was the scripture in Matthew 24, actually, Matthew 24:37, where Jesus says, "As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man." And the first thing we have to say is, well, what differentiates the days of Noah from any other time in history? There's always been earthquakes, there's always been famine, there's always been war, there's always been people sinning. The only thing that differentiates that day is the event of Genesis, what I call the Genesis 6 experiment. Genesis chapter 6, when the sons of God came down to the daughters of men.
Yes.
Well, the book of Enoch references them landing on Mount Hermon in the days of Jared. And what's really fun, and I would say to anybody out there watching this, they could go on Google Earth and check this out for themselves. Go on Google Earth and look for Mount Hermon in southern Lebanon, and then put your cursor over the center of the mountain range, because it's kind of a long mountain range. And I got to give credit where credit is due. David Flynn has done some amazing research on this, and it's also JR did some research on this too. It had it in his article on Mount Hermon. Determined if you go on Google Earth, you can see the center of the mountain range is 33.33 degrees north by 33.33 degrees east from the Paris prime meridian. So when you see it on Google Earth, it's going to give you the Greenwich, but if you subtract the difference between Greenwich and Paris, it'll give you 33.33. So I find that really fascinating, because we know that 1/3 of the angels fell with Lucifer. Well, 1/3 is 33.33%. So how poetic that the fallen angels landed on the only geographical location on the entire planet that fits their numbers like a crosshair.
That meridian that once went through Paris has since come to be called an evil meridian, or sometimes called the devil's meridian, right?
Yeah, devil's line. In the occult, they call it the devil's line.
And interestingly, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, the number 33 has some esoteric connections as well.
Sure does.
But here are Jesus and the disciples at a place called Caesarea Philippi.
Yes.
And I know you've been there. People who go to Israel traditionally visit the springs there. The water comes gushing out. The water from Mount Hermon comes right down to Israel and gushes out into a huge pool.
Yeah.
And there is the location where Jesus was talking to his disciples, and that's a fascinating connection.
Sure is. Again, context. If you You think of it in the Bible took place. I never understood this particular passage in Matthew 16 because Jesus asks the question, who do men say that I am? And, some say Jeremiah, some say Elijah, some say one of the prophets, whatever. And then Peter says what he says. And Jesus gets so excited. And I never understood that because from the day he was born, the angels sung that he was the Son of God. When he grew up, the prophets told him he was the Son of God. He picks Nathanael to be his disciple. He declares he's the Son of God. He says, why? Because I saw you under the fig tree. You're going to see greater things than that. Every time a demon-possessed person saw him, they threw themselves on the ground and cried out, you are the Son of God. You are the Christ. And Jesus would tell them to be quiet. So from the day he's born, all through his ministry, people told him he was the Son of God. So why in the world does he get so excited when Peter says it? And I could never understand that scripture until I actually stood in the location where that conversation took place, in front of the altar to the Greek god Pan at the base of Mount Hermon in Caesarea Philippi.
As a matter of fact, Caesarea Philippi, back in the old days, back in the days of the Roman Empire and before, used to be called Panias.
Yeah.
And the Arabs still refer to it as Banias in the Arabic tongue.
Right.
And that is basically a salutation to the Greek god Pan.
Yeah.
Panias. And Pan, of course, is the representative Greek god.
Yeah, he's a satyr. He's half goat, half man, but he was known in the ancient world as the god of shepherds. So how poetic that the good shepherd stood in front of the Greek god of shepherds to ask this very profound question. But when I'm a filmmaker, so I see things through like the lens of a camera all the time. When I'm looking around, I feel like I have a camera attached to my head. And so it's called a rack focus. And this is the way I see the scene. If I was shooting this scene, that Jesus would have his back to the altar of Pan. He asked the question. All the disciples are saying what they say. And I could see Peter kind of sitting back and saying, wait a minute, the rabbi already knows who we think he is. Why is he asking this? You got James and John, everybody else. So some say Jeremiah. And I see Peter looking at Jesus. So Jesus is in focus. And then all of a sudden Jesus goes out of focus and Pan comes in focus. Right? And then Pan goes out of focus and then Jesus comes back in focus. And Peter goes, oh, I get it. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Oh, that's right, Peter.
And what a place for this to happen. Basically at the foot of the runoff from the top of Mount Hermon, which is snow-capped in the wintertime. The snow melts, the water runs down to Banias or Caesarea Philippi and gushes out of this great big spring, which is below a cave.
Yes.
And that cave has carvings where you can place the statues of little gods around.
Right.
And that cave was the site of occult, esoteric worship, the worship of the very gods who are associated with Mount Hermon.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting is if you're looking at the altar of Pan, off to the right is a foothill at the base of Mount Hermon, where on the top of it was the fortress of Nimrod, who was the first Antichrist that tried to create a one world system without God. And off to the left, there was a place that even to this day is still known as the gates of Hades. And so when Jesus said in the gates of Hades, which I always maintain is not just a place, it's a brother of Zeus. Hades is an entity as much as it is a place. And so when Jesus, at the base of Mount Hermon, where all these Nephilim gods like, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, where these guys originated from Mount Hermon, Jesus said the gates of Hades will not prevail against the revelation you have.
Maybe it's named Hades because he's down there today, locked up.
He is.
And so they gave the place the
an
name
appropriate name.
Okay, we're going to get back to that in a little bit. But they talk about, and I'm going to pull it up here. Here we go. John, you were talking about it's Caesarea Philippi. And this is what you were talking about earlier, right? Before we went on the air.
Yep, that's it.
So the Caesarea Philippi, which stood in the lush area near the foot of Mount Hermon, was a city dominated by immortal activities and pagan worship. How amazing that the true Son of God stood at the foot of this, in this location, and was declared by his disciples as being the Son of the true living God.
That's exactly it. I remember, of course, like I said before, having being forced to go to the Catholic Church, you always heard of Peter, upon this rock you will build my church, and the gates of hell won't prevail against it. Well, that was that. And I came to the conclusion, and I think maybe some others can say, because Peter was, or He was. I say he was. He was the first pope of the Catholic Church. So that's why I think people believe that the Catholics are right in this, because they're like, well, he told Peter to build the church, and Peter was the first pope, and this and that. So, but he was literally not even worried about no kind of religion. Jesus was, and he just said, Peter, he was pointing upon this rock, you would build my group of people on this earth, and the gates of hell, which he literally pointed to, and said won't prevail against it. It was like actually that.
Right, and and it says that to the pagan mind, the cave at Caesarea Philippi created a gate to the underworld where fertility gods lived during the winter. They committed distasteful acts to worship these false gods. Caesarea Philippi's location was essentially unique because it stood at the base of the cliff where the fresh spring water flowed. At one time, the water ran directly from the mouth of the cave set to the bottom of the cliff. The pagans of Jesus' day commonly believed that their fertility gods lived in the underworld during the winter and then returned to earth each spring. And they saw water as a symbol of the underworld. So you heard him mention that this location, the Mount Hermon, is literally located on the 33rd.33 degree parallel, which is known as a lot of people trying to think. It's the parallel of blood. Some people call it that.
Blood, yeah. I think that's also like JFK, where he got killed at.
Yeah, and I'm going to give me a second. I gotta find it. I just pulled it up. Maybe just a minute. There we go. Here's some interesting facts about the 33rd degree parallel. The Georgia Guidestones were located on the 33rd degree parallel. The Kennedy assassination, basically Dallas, took place on the 33rd degree parallel. Phoenix, Arizona. There's a lot of sightings of various unexplained UFO phenomena, and the city site it's the 33. I'm going to correct that a little bit. Phoenix proper itself is not located on the 33rd degree parallel, but Florence, Arizona is. Florence, Arizona is the place of death row for the Arizona Department of Corrections. So,
wow.
Yeah. Roswell, New Mexico is on the 33rd degree parallel, and Mount Hermon is located on the 33rd degree parallel. Let me ask you a question. Why would the UN place the only 24-hour manned base on Mount Hermon?
I'm sure they got some goodies inside that mountain.
You think they got some goodies? Yeah. Yeah.
I think between Roswell and Mount Hermon, obviously, with the Book of Enoch, with the fallen angels teaching man literally every aspect of a sinful life, literally talks about drug abuse, abortion, weaponry, anything that makes a man, anything that would influence a human to kill another human, because men just don't do that. You're influenced to do that. Right. So they introduced all these things which would, make your life just troublesome. And it's almost like a gift in technology. And if you look at Roswell, wasn't that a gift with a reverse engineered, craft of theirs? Yeah. So it's like the same gift, so many, millennia apart.
Well, you said that if you were to bore a hole from Roswell, it would come out at Mount Hermon?
Almost literally.
Almost, yeah.
Because, it's just so close in the numbers. And that's what people, that's one reason why I won't see the date of the operation of a recovery of two entities, because the gematria folks would go literally insane.
Oh, wow.
Because that's how close the numbers are. And that's when I said, it doesn't matter who you name. I can name everybody part of the operation.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter because nobody cares. But if I give you the numbers, which were all made by the numbers are the top thing that involves the creation of DNA by God. So if they figure out the numbers, then I'm gonna get a talking to. So that's why I don't say nothing about the numbers.
Hello, Big John. We'd like to talk to you.
I thought
So-
that was actually my house.
So that's why but it's the numerology of the actual craft or gift that was recovered in Roswell that matches Hermon exactly. It's the location, of course, but it's the exact
It's the
coordinates.
numbers. Yeah.
Yes, it's the number coordinates of the gift that was given to Roswell. Is the same gift that was given at Mount Hermon during the descent in the days of Jared.
Wow. Okay, then. I have quite a couple. I have a couple of numbers that come to mind when you say the gematria of it. So, this is one more thing I'm going to put out there. This is real short. This video, it's 5 minutes long. Talking about Mount Hermon, and when we come back from this one, we're going to talk a little bit more about what this actual video is talking about, because it gives some clues. Let's listen.
Hey guys, it's Enter the Stars, and this is a follow-up video on the highest temple in the world, and that it is missing. And it seems that some of you have come forward with some information, so we're going to share that with you guys today. Now, we discovered that the highest temple in the world had an inscription on it that talked about those who, it was a warning to those who took the oath that this is the gate, this is where it stops. When you come down from heaven as a fallen angel, this is where you will be locked in, and this is the choice you have made. And that was corroborated by the book of Enoch, that they descended on Mount Hermon, and it's named in the book of Enoch. Now, it also was at 33, roughly 0.33 degrees. It's not exact. 0.33 would be 20 hours here, and it's 24. So it's close, but not exact, but it is at the 33-degree north parallel. Now, there's some other information here that is pretty interesting. The UN outpost also has the highest location at this location. So we have the highest temple and the highest UN outpost, as it says here. Now they're calling this Hermon Hotel, HH88. And it is the highest permanently manned UN position in the world. Now, thanks to a subscriber who sent me this wonderful panoramic view of Mount Hermon. Now, this is some kind of a cross that they put here. I'm sure there's more information on that. Take a look at this. Now, the subscriber is thinking that this is the temple, and that is a good guess. Just to the left of the UN base, the highest manned UN base, next to the highest temple. That is just chilling, you guys. It's chilling. Looks like we have some kind of monument here. Looks like a bomb that wasn't exploded. And then they put, looks like some concrete around it and some sort of a thing that they do. Of course, we see some visitors here. Now, curiously, there are virtually no pictures of this temple anywhere, even though it is the highest temple in the world. There are no close-up pictures of this temple, which to me is very curious. Highest UN base, there's a million pictures. The Hermon Hotel. Highest temple, no pictures, or very few, or pictures from far away. Now, we're going to take a look at this on Google Earth and map this and see if we can't get a precise location for it. What's curious is that very close to this temple, 8,888 foot elevation. And that to me is curious, within yards of the proposed site. So I just wanted to give you guys the full panoramic view there. Now let's take a look at some other things that we have here. This is a book that was sent from another subscriber talking about the site, and I actually have a diagram. Kazarantar is the name of the actual site that had the inscription. and they draw a diagram, and they found a hidden chamber underneath it, and that's what we see here. But again, throughout all of these, no coordinates are given, no exact coordinates. Now, I did some math on some of the measurements that they did in this particular study, and it was pretty cryptic. It says here 10.1 by 6.8. That's 33.13 by 22.30. When you convert that to feet, which is 3322. And then we've got some other dimensions here, 2.9 meters for the asp, and the walls were 1.85 meters thick. And that's 9.51 feet by 6.069 feet for these two measurements. So that gives us another piece to the puzzle. And that's about all they show us in this book here. Now here's more corroboration. They do call this the Hermon Hotel. That's HH, again 88. Gives us more clues about the origins and the purpose of this. Here's some pictures of the Hermon Hotel. Got this radar device. But curiously, again, we see very few pictures of this temple. In fact, I could not find one. The only one we have is from that panorama that I just showed you that shows the temple on the entire internet. Billions and billions of pages, and there's only one. So you saw the road shaped like a V at the panorama here. There's the peak. And this is where I believe that stone structure from a distance is, because the picture was taken from the summit. So we're looking at the profile of this, and we're basically limited to standing right in this location here. There's the road going into the UN, and of course you can't see the UN here because there's no 3D view of it. We're gonna pull out here and try to take a top level view of this and see if we can see anything else going on. Zoom back in. So again, very near this summit, we have, of course, an 8,888 foot. So here is the UN base. There's the orientation. And so what we have here is the radar. So that's about all I have, you guys. I just wanted to share this additional information. This is pretty fascinating. You can bet your bottom dollar that this site will be a location for events that happen in the end times.
All right, I want to thank Casey from Under the Stars for that. I pulled up, I wanted him to pull up the information for us. And it's interesting that we have, the numbers, the numerology again, John.
Yeah, it's always with the numbers. The numbers have to match on the Luciferian side to make these things work.
Mm-hmm. They always sign everything in the spiritual realm before it manifests into the physical.
Yeah,
that's how their number signatures, I should say.
And it's always numbers that they're just pissed off at because 8 people survived the flood that weren't Nephilim related. You know what I mean?
Never even thought about that.
So they're just PO. That's why they love that number 8. That's why Sun Tzu wrote about 8-front war. Everything's always going to be an 8-front war in your life, emotionally, spiritually, physically.
All right.
Everything going at one time, 8 fronts. That's why nobody can ever focus on or get their life right. But if you deny the number 8 fronts and you deny that they survived the flood, then guess what? You have no worries in your life.
Wow. Ernie's joined us. Hey, Ernie.
What's going on? How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good. I'm going to put this up. Look what Joseph has to say in our chat. Could we argue that Mount Hermon is the ultimate stargate or entrance into this world, or is it basically the gates of hell? Anyone?
Yeah, definitely a stargate. The picture that was shown earlier that cross.
Uh-huh.
Well, on a particular coin, and I think there's some other artifacts, the tower with that moon piece, that's actually the sign of Lucifer on a lot of artifacts you found in Samaria and also in Mexico. If you take away that, making not a cross, but the tower with that moon piece, that's Lucifer's signature right there. You take away that bar across,
Uh-huh.
that was on that coin from and then I've seen artifacts that's Lucifer's symbol.
Well, and it says that, he fell, when they fell, this is where they fell. So could this be the I just got chills. Could this be the exact location they fell?
Yeah, I would say so. The fallen for sure. They, the exact time. This is my opinion. The actual Lucifer's rebellion, in my opinion, was billions of years ago.
Yeah.
But that, in the days of Jared, that's the 200 whose first estate was heaven, and by their own free will choice left heaven to, obviously, because they found the daughters of men were fair.
Right.
The question is, why in the world are tourists wanting to go there?
I know.
Well,
nope. Hard no.
Hard pass.
It's like, it's like what frequency are they on? You know what I mean? It's like is it a discernment? Do they even know about it? Is it, do they know about it and they want to go see where their, ascending masters are at? It's just how dedicated the person is to go want to investigate that.
We're all familiar. We all know that both NASA and the UN, NASA is not about space. NASA is about something else. And the UN is not about really protection as far as, having its hand in like the world army. I mean, it will come into play in the end. But the fact that they have a 24-hour manned UN base right where the fallen angels fell, to me, they're expecting something.
Yeah, no doubt. It's like every mountain, just like when the Vatican took over Mount Graham in Arizona.
Mount Graham, yeah.
That, that's in the Apache Nation, that's the holiest mountain that they have, and they know it's a Stargate. So it's like, are all these mountain Stargates? Right. I had a theory, and I may have talked about it one time, but I'm going off of like when you drill oil wells, like Asia Minor, specifically the Middle East, that area, the sandstone and the shell, which is like it's not a new thing, but we finally, in the last few years, we have the technology to fracture it and get, a lot of oil that was never before could, be lifted per se in like a money management manner. So fracking, it makes it a lot easier.
Right.
Anyhow, the shale formations around the world compared to the Middle East are like thousands of feet apart in depth. So my theory was, I think when Pangea came apart, I think the Lord literally flipped the actual land masses, dumped what was ever on top into the oceans, and then whatever, he just turned it upside down.
That would make sense when you look at, understanding what oil is. Oil, it's not old dinosaur.
It ain't dinosaurs, I promise you.
Right, it's not dinosaur.
I was just thinking, you brought this up, Big John, about Catholic Church taking over Arizona. I've been watching the Omen movie series. And no way, I talked to you briefly about this. I can't remember which one. I think it's the second one. They were at the Lucifer telescope observing the stars. And get this, they witnessed the planets align. Now, this movie was made back in the 70s, early 80s.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I was like, interesting.
When was Mount Graham telescope? Hold on a second.
Yeah, I have to see that. I know it had been there probably. Let's find out. I think it's early 2000s.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long. Mount Graham.
because Arizona State had some kind of litigation in helping the Vatican do
for
that.
a while, for a long time.
Yeah.
2013. Let's see. Hold on a minute. Mount Graham International Observatory is a division of the Steward Observatory research arm for the Department of Astronomy at the University of Arizona in the United States. Its location in southwestern Arizona is near Mount Graham. Construction began in 1989.
89. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, exactly. There you go, Ernie. So it's like they're looking through a telescope, and you know what I mean? It's like what observatory were they at? But
Well, if you look up, what is it called? I'll have to find it. It has to do with the reason that the telescope is on there. Vatican, something Vaticana.
yeah, Tom Horn and Chris Putnam.
Yeah, Horn talked about it. Yeah, because he went there.
Yeah, him and Putnam. Yeah, and then Putnam, Chris ended up passing away, I think, not long after. But yeah, Horn went there, and they discuss in their book and the documentary they had with it that these Catholic priests were literally seeing these UFOs and be like, well, the UFO's in the way again. It's like it's talked about like very nonchalant, like, oh yeah, well yeah, we got to wait till they get out of the way so we can see kind of past them. You know what I mean? That's how they're talking about it so commonly.
Codex Vaticana. Codex Vaticanus. That's what it's called. Yeah, they're looking for something. They're watching for something.
Well, you remember Malachi Martin? He went on Coast to Coast, and that man was dead. This was in '99, I think. He talked to Art Bell, but he was dead not even 3 weeks later.
Yep, it was.
And he said he goes, well, they're waiting on something to get here.
Yeah,
and that was he was done with.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, they've been watching it, and right after Horn, or did he say it to Horn? It was either right after Horn talked about it, or either that or Horn was talking to somebody, and they said that the Pope had told them that when our star brothers arrive, that they will
be baptized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's I can't think of his name. He has an Italian name. It's a long last name, but he was reprimanded, and because he came out on on Italian television shows talking about that.
He was a Catholic priest.
Yeah, he was a high ranking priest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out with all that, and they like the Vatican called him back and gave him the talk, I guess, but
gave him the talk.
He didn't. He never talked about it again. But he went on a lot of TV shows.
Yep, I remember that was yeah. They pulled him to Rome, and he was told to shut his mouth, basically.
Yeah.
And I think they gave him I think he's probably in the dungeons, mop of the floors or something, because I don't think we saw him after that.
Or they put him at one of the basilicas in Antarctica or something.
Right, exactly. It says Mount Hermon is a place of extreme spiritual significance. Not only is it the place where the fallen angels landed when they fell, but it's also the place where Jesus Christ made the proclamation that he is the Messiah. The United Nations seems to be carrying out what they believe to be prophecy. The United Nations buffer zone between Syria and Israeli-occupied territory is the highest permanently manned UN position in the world, known as Hermon Hotel. And you heard Casey refer to this as HH, or the 88. The southern slopes of Mount Hermon extend into Israel-occupied portions of the Golan Heights. It is called the Eyes of the Nation in Israel because its elevation makes it Israel's primary strategic early warning system. Why does the United Nations have a facility in this exact spot? The 200 fallen angels arrived in Mount Hermon to corrupt the pure bloodline. Their major act was to cohabit with human females and create a race that would corrupt the bloodline that Jesus Christ was to come from. The Anunnaki landed and was said to create the offspring Nephilim by the angels procreating with mortal women. The Nephilim are mysterious supermen from ancient times, men of renown who lived before and after the flood of Noah. Before the flood, they were mentioned in Genesis 6:4 and after in Numbers 13:33. It is disputed what the reasons were. Some say that the offspring were to create workers to carry out deeds. 33-degree parallel is paramount to which objects are placed on our planet. You will come to find many of the articles mentioned. These are ley lines. You've heard us discuss that, guys, in past shows. In the occult science of numerology, the number 33 represents the ultimate attainment of higher consciousness. Mount Hermon is located in the 33rd degree parallel, which is latitude 33 degrees north of the Earth's equator. Tracing that 33 degree parallel to exact opposite side of the globe directly points to the site of the most famous UFO encounter in modern history, Roswell, New Mexico. It is also very odd to me that 1/3 of the angels, the fallen angels, had landed here, makes them 33%, and they land on the 33rd degree parallel. Nothing is by coincidence, guys. It's all part of the plan. There are
exactly. And Lori,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lori. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I found my notebook the other day. And I had written down the guy's name, the priest, and he actually wrote a book. It was approved by Rome in 2005, and his name. He was a Jesuit priest. His name was Guy Consolamango. I can spell it. That he was in charge for the Vatican of the search for the life, right? And he wrote in his book that was pulled at the last minute that every society will look to the aliens to be the saviors of humankind.
Yep.
And you can't find that copy of that book anywhere.
Go figure.
But that was his name. He was also at Mount Graham.
He was also where you broke up.
Mount Graham. He was there, part of the
Yep.
yeah, that's him,
Yep.
Guy.
Okay. Yeah. Mount Graham is another kind of, if you guys don't know, Tom Horn is and Mount Graham and Codex Vaticanus, just you guys need to definitely look into it. It is a rabbit hole like no other. It goes on to say here, there are artificially placed structures used to harvest, alter, or direct planetary current and electromagnetic forces to influence trigger events. These are exploitation of these ley lines, and even military bases are strategically placed on these lines. The world's largest particle accelerator at CERN in Switzerland is on a cross-section of ley lines. These lines are responsible for weird activities in the Bermuda Triangle. Stonehenge is located on the ley line as well. Download Google Earth and ley line overlay, and there's a link here. I'm going to put this in the description. You guys can play around with it. And the ley lines work off of frequencies. The main truth I have found in the number 33 is that it's associated with time travel, the sun, and methods of Phoenicians employed to circumvent and settle around the globe. In order to accomplish such a feat, in a time where there are no satellites, computers, and modern compasses, they would have need to I can't even pronounce that. A system put into place the Phoenician kings, mariners and warriors, masons and slaves had to follow, so that that all would mean the same. They would all be on the same globe page, even if they were separated by different oceans, countries, and times. The Masons also have 33 degrees, which to them is the occult significance and pertains to the level of consciousness that can be achieved. So the number 33 is definitely significant. And if you guys go on Google Maps or Google Earth and you follow the 33 degree parallel across, it's quite interesting the places that it crosses. And if you look at the places, you will find that along the 33 degree parallel, major events have happened, such as deaths, such as events that have changed or altered human history. Let's see what I got. Let me pull up. What do you guys? I'm just gonna push it off to you guys now for just a few minutes. What do you guys think about all that?
I'm just curious, who do you guys think they're waiting for?
Good question. I have a theory, and can I throw it out to you guys?
Yeah.
And now, don't quote me as to like being. I just remember my husband talking about this. My husband's been to Israel. He's been to Mount Hermon. He's seen it all over there, and he said this was his kind of way of thinking: is that in the last days, the Jewish people believe that Christ said that he was coming back and that he was going to be at a certain gate, and they have that gate like literally like boarded up, like there's rocks and all kinds of mortar and concrete covering that gate. like they think that that's going to stop the Messiah. But I think that when he comes back in that specific spot, and I can't remember what it is, that they be able to have a clear shot to see him from the mountain. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does. I always thought that. Well, I think they're waiting on the Antichrist because Daniel said he comes from the air, actual space.
You put the words right out my mouth, Big John, because I was just about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I got the Omen movies in my eyes, and it just seems like it was so accurate. Although the third one was kind of sucked, but especially at the end. Whatever. Anyways, yeah, most of the stuff that they were talking about was so accurate as far as like what's happening right now.
Yeah. Daniel said he comes from space.
Yeah,
the literal air, and it's like,
he is probably one of the stars that we can see up in the sky.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
really?
they'll wonder, it says people verse, I wonder who he is. He is and was, like basically like alive, dead for a while, then now he's back,
Oh, I was thinking he would come back through Project Bluebeam, and it would be like a deception.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, well, that's the thing, because now if you continue with like Vaticana, here's the actual belief of the Jesuits. And now their headquarters, of course, is in Rome, but they have a spot in between the Vatican that has no access from the outside. It's an actual church, and that's their deal, right? Now, they actually believe that Jesus's birth was a abduction scenario where a god, literally, an alien abduction, impregnated Mary, and they think Jesus, going off of John 10:18, that he is an actual star child. And that's why I've always thought that they were going to use that, that notion that, hey, guess what? Look, Jesus, yeah, he did these great things, but he's from us. We made him, we impregnated Mary. Like use that, because to have a falling away before Antichrist is revealed, I just think it has to be literally just a mind-blowing event that's going to just turn people from Christ. Like, oh, he's just that, he's just an old regular person, or he's an alien or whatever.
You're talking about the event horizon.
Yeah, like, whatever, if they use blue beam and they, like, I think they're going to be like, I think Jesus is going to be in the notes to them. Like, they're going to be like, yeah, look, he was great, but we made him.
You know what? It does make sense though, because in order for the son of perdition to prove himself as God, he has to be omnipresent. And what better way to do that than use Project Bluebeam to impose his image upon everybody who has eyes to see and ears to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, you really think people are so. If a new phone comes out, they're tackling each other for this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine when all their dreams come true in their minds, when they're using this voice of God technology or whatever, and people are like, oh, look, they're seeing these craft, decloaking, or cryptid creatures are arriving, but they're nice. You know what I mean? It's like they're going to be just totally deceived if it were possible. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And the thing is too, sorry I mentioned a bunch of movies, but everything's cross-referencing here based off of what you just said. Lori, do you remember some of those movies I sent you about like Antichrist and stuff like that, and that clip I sent you as far as like people putting on visors?
Putting on visors?
Yeah, like virtual reality headsets.
Yes, I do remember that one.
Yeah. During those scenes, people put on virtual reality headsets and they met with the Antichrist, who portrays himself to be as God, healing them from all their iniquities, reuniting families together who were dead. And those who saw through that.
I firmly believe that this whole meta world, or what is it called, is going to have
metaverse. Absolutely,
metaverse is going to have something.
Yeah,
it's totally going to have something to do with. They're going to bring back our loved ones. We're going to be able to, I even saw on I think you sent it or I sent it to you, Ernie, something about how now they're trying to get it so if you die in the metaverse, you die in real life.
Right. And
What?
it was
Oh,
actually
yeah.
the founder of Oculus. But here, get this. This is part of that movie clip that I sent you, Lori. Those who saw through it and reject him as their Lord and Savior, they were captured and put in the guillotine through the virtual reality headset
Yep.
and decapitated, and they died in real life.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, that's like the Matrix, because I was watching the Matrix last night because I hadn't seen it in years.
Oh,
and it
yeah,
was
that's
kind of
another
like,
thing. If you die in there, you die.
yeah, if you die in there, then your body dies because your brain dies and it's connected to your body or something. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But it started off with the little creepy pictures that moved. Remember that on Facebook a couple of years ago that you started seeing ads for, like, you make your photo come to life of your dead relative.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh my gosh, that's so creepy because, like, grandpa or this old Indian from 1800s is, like, real. Like, it's moving and talking and stuff. And now they're putting the dead people in the virtual reality. It all ties. It's like a gateway to what's probably coming.
Exactly.
They can almost tie the mark of the beast with that, and say, look, you can have this time with everybody who you love, they can come back. And because, he tried to promise immortality, like the whole Genesis 3:22 narrative. And then, but he can't. So even if you like, say they introduce a new bioweapon that, like, literally people are actually, like, falling out from this thing and it's like horrible death, and they have the vaccine ready to go, but it's the mark, you know what I mean? It's like, well, you don't have a promise of forever, but we can extend your life for a couple hundred years, but you have to renounce Christ for it to work. You know what I mean? They can put so many scenarios into that with this metaverse reality, because didn't Nimrod hook up with the whole, DNA conversion, like from human to that? I mean, he's the only one who did that.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's just a continuation from the Tower of Babel operation.
Exactly. I found that what I was talking about, there's a book. I thought it's called Exo Vaticana, not Codex Vaticanus, but it's Exo Vaticana. And this is a book. It was written by Tom Horn and Chris Putnam, who both have since deceased. And it says, following the release of their international bestseller, Exo Vaticana, Tom Horn and Chris Putnam were inundated with requests from around the world to be interviewed on radio, television, and in print media. What they discovered sent shockwaves through Christianity concerning the Vatican's advanced telescope, which sits on the top of Mount Graham in Arizona, where the Jesuits admit they are monitoring something approaching the Earth. After the author's initial report was published in Exo Vaticana, the Pope's top astronomer took to the airwaves and on the Vatican Observatory website tried to explain the role that he and other church astronomers are playing with regards to the emerging ET-friendly theology, their association with the Lucifer device at Mount Graham, and their developing doctrines concerning extraterrestrial life and the impact it may have on the planet Earth's religions, Christianity in particular. And it goes off, for the first time in the paths of immortal, they reveal what Mount Graham really is and why NASA and the Vatican are there, disclose what the Bible says about gateways and beings that wait behind them. I'm going to put the link for you guys if you're not familiar with this book, because it goes on and it really, really exposes Mount Graham.
Yeah, the Apaches called it the Star Base. Literal name for it.
Literal name for it. Absolutely.
Where is that? Because I know where Mount Hermon is, but not
Mount Graham is in Arizona.
I think it's close to Sedona.
It is. Hold on a second. I'll pull it up for us. To get my Google map. I don't have it. Let's see.
I've heard so many stories out of Sedona. Literally dinosaurs, centaurs, so many different.
There is an underground base in Sedona that has that the outside of it looks like a retreat, but it's got flags of like all these countries, like 15, 20 countries outside of it, and it's very well protected. It's in Sedona.
I'm gonna tell you something more about Sedona with the whole stones deal. So for years and years, celebrities go talk to the stones in Sedona, like they get advice from them, right? Now, if I'm mistaken, I think it's like Luke 19:40, where the stones will cry out, like they're walking back, and the disciples are like, "Oh, look, it's the Sadducees. Shall we rebuke them?" And Jesus said, "If you don't tell them my gospel, the stones will cry out to them."
Right.
It's like, why do they have talking stones? And then you got talking stones in Incan culture, which is called kipu. And that's where the stones and the rope are like certain lengths apart from each other. And that's an actual, angelic language that they learned. The Incans learned that.
Wow.
So it's like, the rocks talk.
I wonder if that's because so the fallen angels or the Nephilim, you know how, Lori, you have all those pictures that you show where they die and now they're mountains?
Yep.
So that would make sense if maybe
because the stones cry out to them. I mean, you got tons of celebrities. They always go to Sedona, and they're like, "Yeah, we go talk with the stones," and people are like, "Oh, the Rolling Stones," whatever. No, but it's not that. It's they go talk to the rocks, and it's just funny to me that Jesus is like, "Well, if you don't tell them about me, then the stones will cry out and tell them about themselves."
Okay, I pulled up now. Mount Graham is down by. You guys ever heard of Biosphere 2?
No.
I think we've all heard about it with the movie where they got stuck.
Pauly Shore was in it, right?
Pauly Shore. I've actually been to Biosphere 2. It's an Oracle, Arizona, and it's right across. If you can see it, this is how you drive there. I just did the directions, but if you look, it's directly across from Mount Graham. Oracle, Mount Graham, and we pull it out a little bit. There's Tucson for reference, and here's Phoenix for reference. So, there it is. Yeah, Oracle.
Arizona. Such a fitting name. Oracle, Arizona.
It always. It was a very weird place.
It's like if none of this is true and we're all just weird, it's like, why do they name it that close to that mountain?
Right.
And it's like, that's another thing. The Vatican's liaison during the days of Peter was the Cumane Sibyl, which was the woman whose prophecy is on a dollar bill. She was a liaison to the Catholic Church. Peter dealt with her.
A lot of the early church, the early Church of Rome, a lot of them dealt with the oracles of the time. They were the oracle of Delphi. They were supposedly these they were all women, I believe.
Yeah, and it's the ones, like even the one Paul had to rebuke. He encountered probably the worst one.
Yeah.
Don't let that go, because they're gonna be like, look at me, that I don't like, I don't like witches and all that. That's what they're gonna say.
Right. Wow. All right,
I'm just saying, I pointed out because why is her prophecy on a dollar bill? If none of that stuff is real, why does she got to do with it? Why is she with the Catholic Church? Why she's with Peter? It's like there's something behind that. It's just, that just doesn't happen.
Well, nothing happens by happenstance or coincidence when it comes to these people either.
Exactly. Just like the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. All right. You want to pick up the video that we started earlier with, oh my goodness.
With Rob
Skiba? With Rob Skiba. Yeah. Let's continue on, and then we'll come back and we'll talk some more about what they're saying.
So we have this incident, this very famous incident. Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it to thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock will I build my church. The gates of hell or Hades shall not prevail against it.
Yeah.
And those words are aimed at this scenario, at this scene in which they're standing.
Well, what's extraordinary to me about that is you got Genesis chapter 3, the first prophecy in the Bible, where God says that the seed of Eve is going to crush the devil's head. Yeah. So that, if you're receiving that prophecy, what are you thinking? You're thinking, man, I don't want my head crushed. So the first thing he does is he messes with the seed. Turn the page of Genesis 6. And that event that took place to try to prevent Jesus from existing in the first place happened at Mount Hermon. And so this is at the end of Jesus' ministry. His destination is Jerusalem. So why did he take this enormous detour to southern Lebanon, northern Israel, to have this little conversation? He's making a point, not just to his disciples and to us, but he's making a point to the fallen angels who tried to prevent him from existing in the first place. And where it says he took them to the top of a high mountain, well, it's the highest mountain in the regions, and most scholars believe, as I do, that that's where he took them, to the top of Mount Hermon, where today there is a UN radar outpost located at the, it makes you wonder what they're looking for. Right. You understand the strategic location, but Jesus in his day and the UN of our day could look down from that location, and right across from the UN radar outpost is a cross where somebody has marked where they believe the mountain of transfiguration, where the event took place.
You know, that's fascinating, because if you go back before the flood, there was a Mount Hermon. Before ever there was a flood, before ever there was an Israel, there was a Mount Hermon.
Yeah.
And it gets its name, Hermon, from the fact that the fallen angels, and there were fallen angels, took an oath there.
Yes.
They bound themselves together in a solemn oath to do the work they had set out to do, and they knew that they were against God when they did it.
Oh yeah, they did.
But that the etymology of the word Hermon is to take an oath. And they took an oath at that place, and all those years later, and I don't have the number in my head, but thousands of years later, there's Jesus standing at that location.
At that very location.
And declaring what he did in Matthew 16. It's astounding.
And it says from that point on that he went preaching about his death, burial, and resurrection, and headed directly from that location to Jerusalem.
Now, when you begin to look at the Bible this way, not as a book of poetry and not as a book of stories, but as a book of realities, and you begin to connect these realities together, you get some idea of what goes on in Rob Skiba's mind, because when he puts together his videos, his movies, and so forth, that's what you're trying to do, is make the Bible real, right?
Bring it to life. My life statement is bringing powerful visions to life on motion picture screens all over the world. And what that means is that this is the most powerful vision I've ever seen. How do we bring this to life in the way that the masses can receive it?
Rob, let's extend this story a little bit, because the title, after all, and I'm looking at this here, and there's an ugly gray and some UFOs, and Mount Hermon, the Mount Hermon Roswell connection. Everybody knows about Roswell.
Yes.
And I suppose our population is probably evenly divided between those who think it was just a made-up story and those who believe that something really happened there.
Yeah.
But there's a big story in Roswell, isn't there?
Yes, there is. And it goes back to what I said earlier, the statement Jesus made, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. And so we've already established one of the major things that happened in the days of Noah, is you got these Nephilim guys walking around as a result of what happened on Mount Hermon on the 33rd by 33rd. Well, the interesting thing about Roswell, New Mexico, or actually the location is a little further up from Roswell, but the location, again, David Flynn talked about this, that it's located on the 33rd parallel, right? But when they multiplied that particular location by the universal constant of pi, it also gave them the longitude of that location, 104. Is that just a coincidence or a random spaceship crash? I don't think so. How could it be that precise that the location multiplied by pi would give you the longitude, and it's on the same latitude as Mount Hermon?
Well, it's interesting. I look at, and let's just depart the subject that we're on for just a moment and talk about UFOs, which happens to be an interesting subject biblically, because I think of UFOs as what the ancients referred to as Merkava Moftim, the chariots of wonder, the fiery chariots of the Old Testament. They didn't call them flying saucers, but they might as well have, because they appear very often in the ancient world. And Rob, I have noted over the years that major UFO flaps are connected with developments in the life of the nation Israel. Big UFO flap in 1897 called the airship flap, and you may have read about it. Airships appearing all over the world. Well, that was the year of the first Zionist Congress. Next big UFO flap, Kenneth Arnold, UFOs, Roswell, 1947, the year of the UN mandate.
Right.
There was another flap in 1952 when Israel had a war, 1956 when Israel had a war. There was another major flap in 67. when Israel had a war, and you could just go on, and you have to ask yourself, what do UFOs have to do with developments in the life of Israel?
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
Because those UFOs are an expression of the dark forces that surround this world, and they are opposed to the regathering and the raising up of latter-day Israel. And so it just makes perfect sense that they get a little bit upset, a little agitated every time something positive happens in the life of modern Israel.
Yeah, the devil, I believe, has an idea about his time, what the time is, but I don't think he knows all the details.
That's right.
And so every time something's going on with Israel, I think he's going, oh, we got to move now. We got to move. We got to do something.
Yeah.
And the timing is very interesting about the Roswell incident, as you pointed out, what's going on with Israel. So you got this 47, 48 deal with Israel, but you've also got this scenario where this little shepherd boy throws a rock into a cave, cracks a jar, and out pops the book of Enoch and a bunch of other books. That the first chapter of Enoch itself, first few verses, says this book is not for this generation, but for a future generation that shall live in the time of tribulation. Well, we're like, hello.
Yeah, right.
And that's the book that goes into great detail to help us understand what's going on with what I call the Mount Hermon Roswell connection.
Well, I'm
So
sure
put
that
the
was
pieces
all
together.
just a coincidence.
Oh, yeah, just a coincidence.
But
Totally just a coincidence.
and we don't believe in coincidences, of course. But now we have Roswell. What happened at Roswell? Roswell was a time that I think everybody associates with the U.S. government keeping a gigantic secret. What is the secret that the United States government is keeping? And there, I can't count the number of sci-fi films and productions that have been made about that great secret. We think of the X-Files, you know,
right.
and we think of Scully and Mulder saying the truth is out there.
Yes.
And he's looking for the truth. And of course, we as students of the Bible know where the truth is, and the Bible talks about all this, and it talks about a rising of the dark powers in the latter days.
Yeah, and that's why we're trying to talk about it, because the church at large is not talking about this. So you got Eric Von Daniken and all these guys on the History Channel talking about this, Discovery Channel talking about this. Movies, there's almost every week a new movie coming out. All these The Event, you know, all these shows on TV. So the devil is actively putting this message out, but there's so few people in the body of Christ that are telling the truth about what these things are. And so that's what we feel called to do, is try to expose these things from a biblical perspective.
Now let's talk about some Old Testament characters, and I know that you're working on.
Okay, so he goes into greater detail about the Roswell connection. Guys, do you find it coincidental, cough, that we are seeing an uptick in these unidentified flying objects that we are having all over the world in the last 18 months?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean, literally, we, in this, again, my opinion, but I believe we're on the precipice of something dramatic happening.
oh, no doubt. Just like the one that was in Vegas not long ago above that club.
Oh, God. Oh, you talking about the swamp gas? They're trying to call it a weather phenomenon. Guys, I watched this video. I watched that video probably about 50 times. And the thing that convinced me that there was something up there was the spotlights were hitting the metallic and flashing off of it.
Oh, no doubt.
There was something metallic up there.
They'll deny it to the end, and it's like, you know, Vegas, a literal Egyptian, you know, citadel at one time, but, you know, God knows when, but definitely Egyptian. And why it went above that particular area, I don't know. How far is the Luxor from it, you know what I mean? But it's like that, to me, that was like a literal TR-3B sitting up there.
They wanted to see what's going on.
What's all the hype about with people talking about Vegas? No, I mean, but literally, I saw the video. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, it's out there. Google it. And then not a couple of days later, I saw another video where the person was saying, "Oh, here we go." They're saying it is and they gave it was like a TRP or something. I don't even know it, but it was something had to do with a weather phenomenon. I'm sorry, but okay, look, let me play devil's advocate here and let me just say, okay, so it was a weather phenomenon. It was a big cloud. Explain the spotlights off the metallic part of that cloud. Y'all saw it, right?
I saw it. It's funny because people I don't believe anything that the news puts out there.
Well, I commented on the video and I was like, "Oh, you're talking about the 1950s swamp gas, you know?"
Weather balloons.
Right. The men in black come up, they knock on your door, and they're like, "We hear you saw a UFO. We just want to let you know that we've investigated it, and it's been swamp gas." That's great, considering I live in Colorado and we don't have any swamps. Okay, good job, guys.
Why are they still trying to like act like no one sees it when everyone sees it all the time? That's what I don't understand.
All they have to do is
they're here. Like
all they do is put that seed of doubt in people's minds now, because
it's called gaslighting. They do it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like literally, what happened to that guy on the field? You know, and then no, it's not that. It's this. It's that. It's called gaslighting. They totally do it all the time to us.
Yeah. You don't have to convince all the people, just some of the. You don't have to convince all the people all the time, just some of the people some of the time.
Yeah.
Because then people like us who go, "No, I saw it. Can you explain?" They're like, "Oh, it's they already said that it wasn't anything. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill." Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's their MO.
I just think it's very, very interesting that we're seeing this uptick. I mean, and literally, if you guys go over to Mr. MBB333 or whatever his name is over here on YouTube, he's always got videos of strange things people catch in the sky. Like always.
I think the most incredible ones are the snake spacecraft.
Yes.
That is really that intrigued me like it, because I mean, where I'm at, the TR-3B, I've talked to dozens of people. It's a TR-3B where I'm at is as common as just a regular airplane flying over.
Is that the triangle one?
Yeah.
It's the one they just made it unclassified, right?
Pretty much, there's actual patents of it in the government offices they release. I mean, it's it's a
they're not denying it anymore.
Yeah, because it's just. I mean, this thing flies around like it's almost the same pattern, but dozens of people. Oh yeah, that triangle's well, we're barbecuing and it flies over and looks at us and then leaves. And
is that one ours or is that something else?
Well, yes, the Air Force actually has a patent for that. So it's there's actually a TR-4 that the Russians have, and here recently in Ukraine they saw it. So the Russians are using that aircraft in Ukraine.
Wow, looks like the stealth kind of a little bit.
Yeah, it just literal on my TikTok. One of my earlier videos, I got it video of it, and it's just you can see it clear if you look at the blinking light in the video. It's got 3 corner lights and a blinking light, and it literally flies around. I film it, and it looks like a pyramid and shoots straight up in the sky.
Okay, this looks like this one here. You can see it very good, but this right here looks like the Phoenix lights that happened in
97.
97, yeah. I was actually out.
97.
We watched them. I was on South Mountain, and I was hiking with a bunch of people, and we had just stopped, and we were sitting there just talking, and it was starting to get dark, so we were going to head back down the hill, and we turned and we looked, and you could see it coming over from like North Phoenix, and it came right over the city, and it followed Central Avenue right over, and when it got to Indian School, it took off. But we watched it, and this is what it looked like here. Let me ask you a question. I did. So let me ask you a question, John. Do you think that the government could be putting these patents out to cover up the fact that these things are in our skies? It's so easy. Why I say that is because it's so easy to say, "Oh, that's one of ours," when they don't even know who it belongs to.
Yeah, no doubt. That's exactly. It's. Oh yeah, for sure. It's something like you said about the gaslighting. If you put it out there in a more like innocent, operation, it's like, yeah, look, we built this, but don't pay attention to the other ones. Look at ours.
Right.
I never thought of that.
It's like, yeah, it's like softening you. So when the real thing shows up, because I mean,
Right.
it's just like brainwashing. Whether you keep telling somebody something over and over and over again,
Yeah.
finally they're gonna be like, well, either they don't want to hear it, or they're just gonna be like, okay, yeah, shut up, and then they're gonna go with it.
Yeah, totally soft disclosure. We're gonna soften them up, and then when the real thing comes, they won't even think twice about it.
Yeah, it's gonna be just common. Oh, look, there it is. Well, they're like, yeah, that's the thing. If we talk about planting seeds, and that's what pisses off entities, with just a tidbit of knowledge. Well, that stuff works on the Luciferian side too. They plant seeds.
Absolutely, they do. Yeah. The only thing is the difference between, I think, the Luciferian side of it is the fact that when we plant seeds, we don't necessarily stay around to watch them bloom, whereas they plant the seeds and they bombard that person with like things that reinforce that seed until they believe it.
For sure.
We talked about this before we went live, and I said, it's our job to plant seeds. It's not our job to convince people, but just to plant the seed. Whereas on their side, they plant the seed and then they just bombard you.
That's it.
What a tangled web they weave.
Sounds like being in an abusive relationship. Jeez.
Yeah, that's what they work off of. It's like all, entities or demons, whatever you want to call them, they all have the same playbook. If there's nothing, they don't know anything else. They only know what's worked against humans for 6,000 years that we've been, existing. And because of course they come from way before that. So it's like they have 6,000 years on us at least. But the same plays work. And we all come from the garden. So it's like, not to like categorize, but why do all women say, how do I look? How's my hair? It's like, it's because a serpent beguiled Eve. Doesn't mean he did anything with her. He just seduced her and then said, hey, you're looking pretty good. But it's like, but it's the man's side too. It's like, you look at men and you think, oh, well, she cheats on you, she takes your money, this and that. But he always goes back to Eve. And the men always go back to the woman that does stuff to him. So it's like, we're all connected. We're all from that garden. So it's a psychological operation.
It's all been one big psyop since the fall, since before. It's been one big psyop since the garden, I would say.
For sure. It's the devil had the plan ready to go.
Yeah.
The serpent, even how he entered that, this is my opinion. I think when they call him cunning, I think he literally had the technology to even get into the garden.
Interesting. Ernie and Hero, you both have been very quiet. What is your take on what we're talking about? What do you guys think?
Well, as far as the garden goes, or
yeah,
that's something I thought about for a very long time. As far as like, what is the context of what happened there? We all know that Eve ate the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil and gave it to her husband to eat. And it was the light to the eyes, and it was there to make one wise. But I always wondered what the psychology was in Satan's game, as far as like how he was able to convince her to do that, and what was her thoughts and stuff going into eating that.
Ernie, it depends on what you think about happened in the garden. If you think that she actually ate an apple, then it would be a different thought process than if you think that it was a sexual act. I personally don't believe that he conned her into eating anything.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
but I think it was a metaphor that stood for something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he introduced her to a set range of emotions that they didn't have to have.
You're pretty. You're so gorgeous. You don't need these people. Let me show you. It's kind of like, it would kind of be like a seduction of a woman nowadays,
Yeah.
who's a married woman. So Eve is married to Adam, and here comes this guy, Tom, and he's going to seduce her away from Adam. What is the process? I think the same thing happened in the garden. I think that was the original infidelity, you might say.
Yeah, it can definitely be adultery as far as like what happened. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of personally, because God created Eve out of Adam's rib and he designed them to be together. And he caused her to cheat on Adam. But the question remains is, what did Adam do?
Right.
Did he engage in
Well,
stuff he shouldn't have?
They yeah. I mean, they both. Okay, look at if it was just an apple. Okay, let's look at this. So a child gets caught eating a cookie, and mom comes in and says, "What did you do?" What is the child going to do? He's going to cover his mouth, going, "Oh, I didn't eat anything. I didn't." What did they do? They covered up their private parts. It had nothing to do with anything they ingested in their mouth. It had everything to do with their private parts. And when you look at the apple, when somebody says, he was the apple of his eye, the fruit of my loins, the fruit of my loin, I mean, that's Joy Pugh has a book, the Beguiled series, where she goes in and she talks about because I mean, Satan was the father of Cain. It's, even though the Cain and Abel were twins, they had different fathers, and that is a real thing. It's called twins with two fathers is called heteropaternal superfecundation. Oh, I can't pronounce it. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up because
it's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yes, it's exactly what it is. Heteropaternal superfecundation. I can't pronounce it, but here's what it is. It's the biological phenomenon of giving birth to twins with two different biological fathers. It is possible, and the Bible says, the Bible tells us, literally tells us, they had two different fathers. When he says your father is of the devil.
I think you just gave me a video idea.
Yeah, talk about it's called going to the club too much.
So what you're saying is Eve got busy.
Eve got busy and invited Adam over and said, "Come on, honey, let's do this." And yeah, that's kind of what happened.
Well,
and Adam participated.
Here's the thing too. Now this is. It was called the Book of Adam and Eve. It was found in Arabic, and it kind of told like the saga after they were, kicked out of the garden. But in that this text was found a long time ago. So it says in that Adam actually was going with a lot of these handmaidens who were just, basically, like. Just the entities that look like women, you know what I mean? Whether they were hybrids or just shapeshifters or whatever. But he engaged intercourse with these handmaids. This is what these writings say. It did that a lot, and it also talks about like that's how they discovered they had blood for the first time, because they literally committed suicide on the rocks, and then they said that they that it shows that they had this red liquid pouring from them and all this. And it is, I just found. I don't necessarily believe that certain, but it is found in Arabic and it is old. So
right,
it's just an idea like that he did. Like there was a lot of, I guess that's why the whole thing about sexual immortality is such a big topic in the scripture.
Exactly. So was bloodline. Bloodline's important. I mean, everybody says, I don't understand why you need to know the bloodline. Well, you need to know the bloodline. And they needed to know the bloodline in order to recognize the Messiah when he came. We need to know the bloodline to recognize the Antichrist when he comes. So,
no doubt. Yeah, and that's all definitely true with the whole DNA and Genesis 6 narrative.
Exactly.
That's the main deal.
Exactly. Wow. Well, I believe that we're going to be seeing first. I think we're going to be seeing more of an uptick in the UFOs that we've been seeing in the last 18 months. I think it's not going to be nothing more than just continuing to the point where I do believe this year could be some sort of hard disclosure. We've had soft disclosure over the past few years, but I think we're going to see some sort of hard disclosure for number one. I think number two, I think that given the year, it's 2023. If you reverse that, it's the 322. It's the number of skull and bones. I think a lot is going to be starting to happen on the world stage. You guys, World War III possible? Full blown. I'm talking full blown World War III.
Yeah, I think that'd be hopping into it a little too quick.
Possible? No. Probable? Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think so too. I look at it as World War III, like, yeah, maybe to what extent if it goes, like use of nuclear weapons. I've always thought about this even before I converted over to, believer in Jesus, was the literal invasion of the United States. I've had so many encounters in my life with that particular topic and visions even before then, dreams about these things. And it's like,
yeah,
that's what I truly think about the United States being invaded.
Well, we've got Dudeman's prophecy of the United States being invaded. George Washington, his dream of the United States being invaded.
Henry Groover had one. Yeah,
it's not out of the realm of possibility. And considering that, the administration that has been put in place has made us ripe for the invasion. It started under Obama when he started depleting our military, and it's continued.
Yeah, even with like the munitions all going to Ukraine, I mean, they sent over every, anti-tank weapon system, anti-aircraft, and those things, they're just not being constantly manufactured, And if you're sending your stock, and it come out not long ago that they were actually digging to the armories of active duty military bases to send to Ukraine. So it's like, why would you start sending all your munitions out of here? It's like, well, there's the only military strategy of that is you're a traitor and you're preparing the way for an advancement of armies. And like, obviously not everybody can, take a, FIM 92, which is a Stinger, and operate it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or a Javelin, and it's like, you can't, I look at it like that. I got logical to it, but when you have like a lot of small arms being pulled from armories off of active duty bases, that's a big sign to me.
Yeah.
That you're
and don't forget all the munitions that we gave up when we pulled the troops out of Afghanistan.
Exactly. I mean, that was a lot of stuff. And it's like,
talk about arming. Oh my goodness.
I mean, you give them a lot of stuff, and they operate. People in Afghanistan have been, with anti-aircraft missiles, obviously since the Soviet deal, and so they know how to operate all these systems. Not to mention Soviet-style systems, and and Obama brought in a lot of Soviet weaponry and put it in these warehouses to literally have the fifth column forces come in, basically who's coming across the border. These combat age men that operate Soviet equipment that all come from Central America and northern South America. That's all Soviet. The Soviets been, equipping them for decades. Yeah. And now, you line them up, and go to these warehouses and, hand out your Soviet munitions. And it's just a fact that you may not be able to take over the United States. Obviously, it'll take years. But here's the thing. on a fog of war side, the only thing you have to do is take away Wi-Fi for people, and you can just sit back. You literally, you're not gonna be able to go to Walmart or go do what you want. It's gonna be a fog of war, and an enemy like that, whether it's guerrilla warfare or actual active troops, you can sit back and just like, well, we'll let the cities just take themselves out,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll come in.
Yeah, I mean, we're so reliant on internet and computer age technology that we forgot what we were built for, and that was obviously by design, because once that's taken away, the world's going into chaos.
That's exactly it.
Nobody talks about the fact that Obama put in the kill switch for the internet.
Yeah. And now we got these EVs running around and increasing at an alarming rate. And I read an article that the government can provide a kill switch for those too.
And now they want to implement everybody to get these electric cars. We can't even keep the grid up on a 90-degree day in the Southwest. We have brownouts across California, Arizona, Nevada. Can you imagine if we put more pressure on the grid with these
bottom line?
And other than Tesla, the main charging company always goes out everywhere. It's not just in the Southwest or any hot climate. It's up in the north as well.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So Lori,
go ahead, Trish.
I'm sorry. I just want to ask, Lori, you said there's a kill switch. So they could do the kill switch without an EMP? They could literally just shut off our computers?
Correct.
Yep.
Oh, geez. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. It just turn off the servers, and because all the servers they build them out in the middle of nowhere, and they literally have that switch to kill the server, and then that's it. No more comms. But bottom line is, this is an 8-front war, and it's all guided by the CCP.
Yeah.
Where you want all your military to take this vaccine, and you want kill switches where people can't move. That's one thing in a military operation. You want to kill movement, because
that's why they're creating the 15-minute cities now.
Exactly, because they don't want you to move, and that's the whole thing. What and anybody, I mean, I don't know if y'all served or whatever, but anybody out there listening, I remember a cadence of shoot, move, and communicate. Boom, boom. I mean, that you have to move in a military operation, but if you stop the movement of people, you really downgrade your percentage of having any kind of organization. And it's like, now they want the kill switches in the cars, the comms. They don't want you to move. They want all military. Here's the thing: whether the jab does something to you or not, right? It's like, why do you want to get active duty? Because you want to be able to overrun these bases when there's no active duty. Obviously, you got veterans, but the war on veterans is even worse.
Oh gosh.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is all an operation by people who literally live by Sun Tzu.
Yeah.
The art of war. I mean, it's like it's being run by a whole nother country. The munitions moving, everything is being operated by the Chinese, and I don't care what anybody says. They're coming over here.
Well, they have their
coming. They're already here.
What is it?
Yeah, but I mean, when I say they're here, and of course, Ernie, you're definitely right. But I'm talking about establishing a beachhead in California and moving the real stuff in.
Mm.
If you read their, is it a 100-year plan or 1,000-year plan? I can't remember. It's either 100 or 1,000. But if you read their plan it's either a 100-year plan of world domination or a 1,000-year plan of world domination.
Probably 100, because I know they got a lot of. They took over Afghanistan. They took over all that stuff.
Yeah, but they have a plan, and they are, because they don't care about their people and they only care militarily. They have a set course, and they stay on that course.
Oh, for sure. They can literally just let loose 100 million infantry.
Yeah.
And still have 100 million more after that. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
And nobody's defending us. I mean, we have no resistance.
When you think about the CCP and how they have quite literally paid for our government officials, who's going to fight back, Trish? Who's going to fight back?
That's it. They can, I mean, if you have rogue units, now I say rogue, I've always said rogue military units are something that you don't want to encounter rogue if you're like in a Civil War situation or like basically a breakdown of society. Rogue military units can cause a lot of problems among, groups of people who are just trying to have community. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But on a side that, and I'm not saying all military is bad. I did know quite a few weirdos, but now if you say you have like the Fifth Fleet or whatever out in the ocean, and it's like giving the sign that China is coming for the mainland, and it's going to be everybody on the ship's not going to be going along with it, and they may come after these amphibious assault forces. But who's to say that our government wouldn't order like a tactical nuke strike on actual ships, on our own ships? That's a very real scenario.
I mean, they have remote control to all the bombs that's in those ships as well. So,
I mean,
one string of code can cause a detonation.
That, or it could be where they attack. We attack our own forces. It's like, because they have bought out. If you look at who's on the payroll of the Chinese Communist Party, there's lots of governors, there's lots of politicians. It's like, and the whole thing is, in the art of war, they hate traitors more than they hate enemy combatants.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not their own traitors. They hate the traitors of their enemy.
So all these traitors that are getting rewarded right now,
they're going to get it worse.
They're going to get worse. Okay, so they're not very bright. Our traitors are not very bright.
No, they don't know nothing about that. They don't know nothing about that code.
When you think about it, Trish, and we've talked about this on the show many times. When you think about all of the ships that are off of our coast, where are most of them coming from? Most of them are coming from China and the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think you've got the Club K, or is it the Club K missiles that we know are on most of these ships, number one. Number two, China owns just about every major port around the world.
And national park here.
So, when they're pulling, you think about it. You've got a Club K. So you've got a ship that's coming into San Diego, or into port. Let's use Houston. You got one coming into Houston port, and the guys on the dock, the ship. What are they called? The pilot ships. They come out to pick up the ships and to bring them into port. They all know who their bosses are. Their bosses are the Chinese. They know this. So when they bring these in, you're not supposed to allow these Club K missiles into our ports, but yet we still are. We're supposed to be scanning these ships for signs of radioactivity. We don't. You want to talk about a Red Dawn situation? It's a matter of time.
For sure. And not even the Clintons gave China the W-88 technology, which is neutronic, neutron weapons, which don't destroy infrastructure. That only kills flesh. So everything will be intact. It just won't be no bodies. You know what I mean?
Well, what is that, John? Can you explain?
A neutron weapon?
Yeah.
It microwave. It's where it only kills flesh. It doesn't actually have it doesn't really have a blast to it. It doesn't destroy infrastructure. It only kills like organic life.
It leaves the buildings. None of the buildings will be destroyed.
Yeah, none of the buildings will be destroyed. It was just literally like microwave.
Just the life forms.
Yeah, just microwave organic matter.
Oh goodness.
Yep. Because when you think about it, they're not going to use conventional nuclear weapons to come in. Okay, so China, they don't want to destroy us. They don't want to make United States.
It ain't about destroying. It's occupation.
Yeah. It's occupation. They don't want to destroy the United States with a conventional nuclear weapon, because that way, first off, the buildings are destroyed. You got a crater. You've got radioactivity. You've got all of these things that you have to overcome. Now, let alone the disease and everything. But if you take this bomb that leaves the buildings intact, doesn't have a crater, no radioactivity, just set it off, kill everybody. You just go in, you swoop them, you pull them into a mass grave, and what do you got? You've got a complete town, city, village, whatever, that you can just come in and make yourself at home in.
Yeah,
But doesn't that kill the wealth?
bodies.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's going to straight vaporize people.
Yeah,
it's like there's no isotopes from it. It's just really non-radioactive. It just doesn't leave anything.
Like
And
the birds and everything will be gone?
any kind of organic matter, any kind of hydrocarbon makeup is just going to kill it.
Yep.
Bombard it with energy. And it's almost like, thermobaric weapons have an explosion to them, but it sucks all available oxygen and then turns the air on fire.
Are you talking about the microwave weapons?
Well, this is the thermobaric, like thermite, like Russia's using in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Kind of like a fuel air bomb. They call it, some of the first ones was called a daisy cutter. They use that in Vietnam.
But that still destroys the buildings and everything else.
Yeah, it has a concussive effect to it. Not as wide. It's, of course, not nuclear, but it just pulls in, like it literally would kill people by just pulling the air out of their lungs.
Yep.
And then like such a concussive explosion from the fire would, break your ankles and probably burst your blood vessels. But it's not as bad. Like now, neutron bomb is just, there's no kind of infrastructure. It's definitely just organic matter dead.
No matter what, it's bad. Okay.
It's And then here's another thing that's not really talked about. If they go with another pandemic and say they use like, Ebola pox or something, they've been building or obviously already have, then say it's a DNA-based bioweapon and it only kills certain gene, sequences.
DNA specific.
Yeah, exactly. And those exist, so Congress has already talked about this,
Absolutely. So
sit back, doesn't kill Chinese blood, but it kills the melting pot of America.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's, and they started this, creating these things. I think when they started, putting up the 23andMe and the Ancestry.com to pull in our DNA. I believe
100%.
They're looking for somebody, but I also believe they're making bioweapons according to our DNA.
Yeah, for Asia Minor and Anglo-Saxon, like the separations of the bloodlines, basically. And then, like I said, 8-front war. Everything's included. Yeah. You're looking for Nephilim. We can kill people with this, and we can find our buddies, and we can do, what I mean? It's like it's always an 8-front war.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Well, they're definitely coordinated.
Oh
yeah. I mean, it's almost like what you've been dedicated to the whole time. It doesn't matter, you can, I mean, if you want to go back to the human rights part of it, like, China, they don't care. You can cry and whine and make up stories. They ain't worried about it. They want domination. It don't matter. They're like, well, we got plenty of our people. We ain't worried about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
They don't think like we think. It's only, not saying that they're all like that, but I'm talking about the government. The people, obviously, they're over there rebelling because they don't want to be in their damn house anymore for 9 months, and they're being forced to build iPhones. It's like those people are rebelling, and I'm all for them too, because I guarantee you ain't gonna make me build no iPhone in my house for 9 months. I'm gonna be doing something bad, figure something out how to get out of there.
They're killing their own people and using their organs and stuff. So
for sure, that's what I'm saying. That's why they don't care.
It's definitely the government's.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. It's definitely government.
Not
it's like,
the
but
people.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the same over here. It's like, yeah, you can sit back and say, oh, well, this generation is a bunch of dummies, but it's like, it ain't all of them, but it's just the atmosphere of what, surrounds you. Everything is being shifted. And it, like I said, psychological operation, but they don't care. It's like, you can sit back and say, well, I'm gonna wait for Trump to run. He's not going to do anything. It's already in motion. Nothing's going to happen with that.
Again, I always say it doesn't matter who's driving the truck. Okay, the destination's the same.
It's
no, I'm serious. In order for me to get from point A to point B, okay, and I've pulled this up. I've done Chicago to Houston. There's three different ways you can take. But they all end up in Houston. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter if the Republicans are driving it, the Democrats are driving it.
It all ends in Houston.
or the destination is the same. It doesn't matter who's driving the car.
It's not going to be stopped. It's like it's just it's a total play, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to be like, oh, they're not heartfelt. Nobody cares. And I mean, like the government, it's like you can like, well, I'm going to vote in. I know this Republican, and I'm going to vote him in. He's going to change Washington. That has been a pissing on my foot moment forever.
It's always been like that since I've been born. And it's like left wing, right wing, same fallen angel, same
100%. Yeah, they're all being guided. You're going to play the game they play. They got nothing to do with no. Well, we'll wait till next election. That is just, my gosh, if that's not a dang, just go out there and tell them the play's almost ready to start. Get them some more popcorn. It's like, and people falling for it.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody in the chat room just corrected us. Tom Horn is alive. Chris Putnam is not, but Tom Horn is alive.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Tom Horn was. Yeah. Chris died.
Chris Putnam died. He died a few years back. 18, I think, 2017 or 2018. So yeah, I do apologize for that. That is thank you for putting that to our attention. I don't want to, and I'll put it in the description too, that we have a correction on that as well. Wow, guys, it's coming up on an hour and 45 minutes. And I want to end tonight by kind of, letting you guys know that if you're not following Big John over on TikTok, you are not doing yourself justice. I put up a post today on Facebook, and I'm going to pull it up. Give me just a second here. My computer, I don't even know what's going on with it lately. All right, everybody's messaging me over on Facebook. Hi, guys. Oh, my God, are you kidding me? Hold on a minute. I got to exit out of all of these. Nobody ever talks to me until I get live. All right. So I put up a post this morning, and I actually sent this to Ernie earlier, and I read it to Big John already, and he said I have his permission to read this. But this is, I set up post, and I said, what would you guys, what would you like to hear Big John talk about tonight? And I'm going to read you a comment. And this is from Robbie Walters, and he's a friend of mine. You guys might have seen him with Howard and when we do our truther phone call, monthly phone call. And he says, what would you like to hear Big John talk about tonight? The possibilities are endless. The choice is just right. He could speak of love, or he could speak of war. He could speak of peace, or he could speak of more. Perhaps he'll speak of the past and the lessons it imparts, of the struggles and triumphs and the wounds of the heart. Or maybe he'll speak of the future and its dreams that it holds, of the hope and the promise of the stories yet untold. Whatever Big John chooses to speak of tonight, you can be sure it will be with all of his might. For he is a man of conviction and a man of his word. And when he takes the stage, the world is his to be heard. So sit back and listen, and let his words take flight as Big John talks about whatever he feels is right. For you never know what he might say on a night like this, in a moment like this, with words that will never stray. Big John stands tall, his voice a thunderous sound, as he takes the stage and the crowd gathers round, eager to hear what he has to say on this faithful night in his faithful way. What would you like to hear Big John talk about tonight? The possibilities are endless. The options are right. He could speak of love and peace and unity, of a world that's free from hate and enmity. Or perhaps he'll speak of justice and of fairness and equality, of a society that values all with dignity. He could speak of the future and of hope and prosperity, of a world that's bright and free from poverty. So let us listen and let us learn as Big John takes the stage, his message to discern. For he has much to say and much to teach on this faithful night within our reach.
Aw, we love you, Big John. That
I
guy
love y'all
nailed
too.
it.
You know, like I said, it's just, I don't know what to say. It's like, I'm glad that y'all take time at, because we're all different, obviously. We all got different things to do on this planet.
Absolutely.
But to take even to him to write that, or anybody listening or ask me, and I'm like I said, I apologize for not answering anybody or everybody who maybe leaves a comment or whatever. And I try to get to them, but it's like I y'all just listen to what I have to ramble about is just, I don't know what word for it. It's awesome. And
I don't think you give yourself enough credit. I think that you have a larger impact on people than you realize.
Yeah, I see that. It's I don't know what to say. I feel like I've said 1,000 things and I can't think of one thing, but that's awesome. It's,
and like I said, I didn't even know that he is a listener. He's like a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
And I've been on live streams with him before, a few times, and it was just when he wrote that, I was just wow. I was amazed.
It's something, and I sometimes you just read that, and it's like, I think, do I tell enough? You know what I mean? Do I give? Does everybody have enough of it? And I get it. People are like wanting more, this and that. It's like,
well, you have to protect yourself as well, my friend.
100% that, and then it's like, I've always said, if you want, go to the Lord in prayer with it. Go ask Jesus. He's obviously the one that's going to give you the full discernment and give you the full, and I've even said before, not everybody needs to know about what I talk about. Right. If you are steadfast in Jesus and you just find me interesting, then listen. But it's like, you don't have to hear that. You don't have to hear about no Nephilim, but it's like, but everybody can just take from it, whatever it is. And sometimes, like after you read that to me earlier, then of course to everybody tonight, it's like, I'm at to, kind of focus some more on, maybe like what I used to preach about when I first converted, maybe help some people out, because I feel like I don't like I'm not up to it, but like I'm not giving the good stuff, or I'm not giving, like what really would help people, like with their belief, rather than, hearing,
John, I think you are planting the seeds. I think you are doing the work that you were called to do. And we just want you to know that we appreciate everything you're doing.
I appreciate y'all for sure. And I'm glad I wasn't talking about, a 77 Trans Am or something, because that would not lead up to what that guy wrote.
Exactly.
Even though that's the best car ever, but I'm just,
right. And I'm going to put all the links in the description, guys. We only touched on these topics. It's up to you guys to do your research on it, and study to show thyself approved. Test all things. I'm going to give you all the links in the description below for you guys to to do your own research on it. And
don't forget to follow Hero on TikTok. He posted some funny and some educational content as well.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right, Ernie. Thank you. The Hero. Yeah. My apologies for just adding you back on TikTok. So don't come after me with the video.
Don't worry about Big John, Hero. It takes him a couple of months to follow you.
Yeah, Ernie too. Yeah, Ernie too. But Hero. Yeah, for sure. That he puts a lot of dedication to his stuff. And,
beautiful work.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Talk about definitely 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will put the link in his description. He goes live a lot. I've been in a few of his live streams. And so, I'm going to try to go live a little bit more with Hurricane Ann in the next few weeks over on TikTok as well. So, yeah. But thank you guys for joining us tonight. Hero, you're too quiet. You need to bust in and tell us your thoughts.
This one I didn't really know a ton about, so I was just listening and learning. Like I could talk about some Nephilim.
Well, we're actually that's gonna be the topic next week. We're gonna talk a little bit more about the Nephilim. We're gonna talk a little bit more about these because guys, is it my imagination, or are we seeing tons and tons and tons of information coming out about Nephilim, just like all of a sudden?
Exactly, especially the cryptid system. Like whatever cryptid it may be. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's been really weird. It's like between UFOs and the giants, that's about all I'm seeing. It's crazy. Next week I want to talk about the gentleman who exposed the giant up on the mountain in Canada. He's since been, I guess we've confirmed he's deceased.
Oh no.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. I want to talk a little bit more about these entities they found in stasis. And we're also going to talk, there was an article that just came out, and Trish, you have been on point for over a year talking about the med beds.
Really?
I just got and I'm going to try to find it again. I put it somewhere. Somebody's got it somewhere. If you're hearing me and I've sent it to you, send it back to me, please. Talking about the med beds. I think we're going to start seeing the return of the sarcophagus. And when you go back into Hollywood, where did we see the sarcophagus in a movie, in a blockbuster movie? Stargate.
Osiris is coming back.
Yeah, the Osiris.
So I thought we could talk about that next week. I think that would be an interesting topic.
Cool.
I want to thank all of you guys for joining us tonight, as always. I want to thank everybody in our chat room for joining us. And again, thank you to all the moderators. I'm not sure when we'll be back. My husband is going to be going off to work again very soon. Yay. Sorry. It's been a rough 3 weeks. I love the man. Don't get me wrong. Oh, I love him to death.
Dang.
I do.
That's
I love
cold.
him. I love this man to death. You have no idea. But he's happier when he's in the truck on the road, and so he is going to be up and out, and we can be going back to our regular scheduled programs and get back to making 2023 all about the truth again.
Woo!
Woo! So, Ernie.
What?
Hey, you want to take us out?
Yeah, sure.
Excellent.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Ernie.
Ernie here. Back again. One more time. Hi. Oh, we're going out. Okay. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight, and I'm sorry that I was late. I was taking care of some duties for my church. Appreciate you all coming and just spending time with us and just putting our minds together to uncover more information that has been hidden from us. And we always talk at the end of the show about fear. What we discuss here each and every night that we come on, it's not our intention to bring fear upon you guys. For 2 Timothy 1 verse 7 said, God does not provide us with the spirit of fear, but of power and love and sound mind. We just serve as watchmen. To sound a horn when we see something that needs to be exposed. So with that said, guys, we are facing some perilous times, and the end is not yet. Things are going to get worse. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines, there will be pestilences, there'll be earthquakes in diverse places. But rest assured, all of this stuff that comes is only temporary. So put your armor on, keep your book open, and most importantly, have your foundation on the rock, which is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So until next time, guys, remember, eyes open, no fear. Good night.